The ships were dying. Commander Taman Park knew this as he stared at the status screens in the command center of the New Horizon. Red warnings blinked across every display. Fuel reserves at 23%. Food production systems failing in sections C through F. Medical supplies critically low. The generation ship that had carried 20,000 humans away from Earth 40 years ago was now limping through the dark between stars, searching for a home that would accept them. Taman ran a hand through his gray hair. He had been 32 when they left Earth. Now he was 72, and most of those years had been spent hearing the same word over and over. No. "Commander Captain Choi is returning from the surface," a voice called out. Taman turned to see the communications officer pointing at the view screen. A small shuttle was climbing up from the planet below, breaking through the purple-tinged atmosphere of Kepler 442. This was their 5th attempt. 5 different worlds, 5 different alien species. And Taman already knew what Yuna would say before her shuttle even docked. He made his way to the docking bay, his joints aching. The ship's artificial gravity had been reduced to 70% to save power, and it made everything feel wrong. Like walking on a world that did not quite want you. The shuttle door hissed open. Captain Yuna Choi stepped out, still wearing her diplomatic uniform. She was younger than Taman, only 58, but she looked ancient. Her face was tight with barely controlled anger. Behind her came Do-Hyun Lee, the fleet's chief medical officer, carrying his equipment case with slumped shoulders. "They said no," Yuna said flatly. "Not a question. Not even disappointment anymore. Just fact." Taman nodded slowly. "What reason did they give this time?" Yuna pulled off her uniform jacket and threw it on a nearby bench. "The same reason they all give. We spread too fast. We consumed too much. We change things." She laughed bitterly. "The Velthrans showed me their history files. They have records going back 10,000 years. In all that time, their population has grown by only 15%. They live in the same cities their ancestors built. They eat the same foods. They think the same thoughts. And they think we will disrupt that," Do-Hyun added quietly. He looked exhausted. "I offered to share our medical technology. We could have cured the wasting disease that kills their children. They refused. They said it was better for some children to die than to risk their culture changing." Taman felt something cold settle in his stomach. "How long do we have?" "Before what?" Yuna asked. "Before we cannot make another jump, before the ships fall apart, before we run out of food." Taman looked at both of them. "How long?" Do-Hyun opened his case and pulled out a data pad. His hands shook slightly as he scrolled through the information. "We have lost 340 people in the past year. Malnutrition, disease, accidents from failing equipment. At this rate, we will lose 1,000 more in the next 2 years." He looked up. "And that is if nothing else breaks." "Something will break," a new voice said. Engineer Minha Kim walked into the docking bay, her coveralls stained with grease and coolant. "I have been holding these ships together with wire and prayers. The New Horizon needs a complete overhaul. The escort vessels are even worse. Another long-range jump might tear us apart." Taman looked at each of them. These were his senior staff, his friends. They had all volunteered for this mission 40 years ago, full of hope and dreams. Earth had been dying then, choked by pollution and overpopulation. The United Earth government had built these ships and sent them out to find new worlds, to give humanity a future among the stars. But the stars did not want them. "There must be somewhere," Taman said. "The galaxy is full of worlds. Surely one species will accept us." Yuna shook her head. "I accessed the Galactic Assembly's public records while we were in orbit. Do you want to know what they call us? The Hungry Ones. The species that cannot stop growing, cannot stop changing, cannot stop wanting more." She walked to a viewport and stared out at the planet below. They fear us, Taemin. Not because we are violent. We have never fired a weapon at any of them. They fear us because we make friends too easily. That makes no sense, Minha said. It does to them. Do-yun pulled up an image on his datapad. It showed an old photograph from Earth, from before they left. A human child playing with a dog. I saw their reaction when I showed them pictures of Earth. They were horrified. We domesticated wolves. We turned predators into companions. We live with cats, birds, horses, dozens of species. We keep them in our homes. We love them. So? Minha asked. So to them, that is terrifying, Do-yun explained. Most species in the galaxy evolved alone on their worlds. They have never lived alongside other intelligent beings. The idea of humans mixing with them, living with them, eventually, he paused. They think we will absorb them, change them into something else. They would rather die pure than live changed. The group stood in silence. Around them, the ship hummed and groaned, the sounds of a dying vessel trying to stay alive. What do we do? Yuna asked quietly. Taemin had no answer. He had been asking himself the same question for years. They could not go home. Earth had sent them away because there was no room, no resources. They could not stay here. The Velthrons had made that clear. And they could not keep searching forever. The ships would not last. Commander! A young officer ran into the docking bay, holding a communication device. Sir, we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from Sol system, from Earth. Everyone turned to stare. Earth was 40 light years away. Any message would have been sent years ago. Put it through, Taemin ordered. The officer activated the device. Static filled the air, then a voice. It was distorted by distance and interference, but the words were clear. Children of Terra, we have been watching. Come home. The message repeated twice more, then ended. Taemin looked at his crew. He saw confusion, hope, and fear in their eyes. Earth had sent them away. Why would Earth call them back now? But they had nowhere else to go. Set course for Earth, Taemin said finally. We are going home. 2 years passed as the fleet crawled through space, trying to survive while searching for any world that might accept them. Diplomatic officer Jaiwan Bei spent those years studying everything she could find about the Galactic Assembly and the species that governed it. What she discovered made her sick. She sat in her small office aboard the New Horizon, surrounded by screens filled with alien text. Her translation software worked constantly, converting the languages of dozens of species into something she could understand. The more she read, the more she understood why humanity was rejected everywhere they went. It is not about resources, she said to Sujin Han, who sat across from her desk. Sujin was the fleet's chief agricultural specialist, a woman who had spent 2 years trying to offer farming techniques to species that refused to even listen. They have enough space, enough food. Enough of everything. They just do not want us. Sujin rubbed her tired eyes. She had lost weight like everyone else on the ships. The hydroponics gardens were failing, and she could not fix them without parts they did not have. Then why? What did we do wrong? Jiwon turned one of her screens around so Sujin could see it. The image showed a document from the Galactic Assembly's historical archives. This is from 200 years ago. It is a report about Earth, written by the first alien species to observe our planet. They never made contact. They just watched us and wrote this. Sujin leaned forward and read the translation. Her face went pale. The report described humanity in clinical terms. It noted their technology level, their population, their conflicts and wars. But the conclusion was what mattered. The alien observers had written, "This species is uniquely dangerous. They do not attack other intelligent beings. They befriend them. They adopt them. They integrate them into their societies. Recommendation: avoid all contact. They will not conquer us with weapons. They will absorb us with compassion. This is insane, Sujin whispered. They are afraid because we are kind? They are afraid because they do not understand kindness between species, Jiwon said. She pulled up more documents. Look at this. Every species in the Galactic Assembly evolved on worlds where they were the only intelligent life. When they reached space, they met others, but they kept their distance. They trade, they communicate, but they never mix, never integrate, never live together. She showed Sujin images from different alien worlds. Cities that were identical across thousands of years, populations that barely changed, cultures frozen in time. They value purity above everything else. The idea of change terrifies them. But we cannot help changing, Sujin said. We are human. We adapt. We grow. We learn from others. Exactly. Jiwon stood and walked to her viewport. Outside, the stars drifted past slowly. That is why they will never accept us. We are everything they fear. We took wolves and made them dogs. We took wild cats and made them pets. We domesticated plants and animals. We borrowed ideas from every culture on Earth and mixed them together. She turned back to Sujin. To them, we are a virus. Not a disease that kills, but one that transforms. They look at us and see the end of everything they are. Sujin was quiet for a long moment. I have been offering them our agricultural techniques, ways to grow more food with less water, methods to enrich their soil, and they keep saying no. She laughed sadly. I thought they were being stubborn, but they are just terrified that if they use our methods, they will become a little bit more like us. Yes, Jiwon said, and that is worse than starving to them. A knock on the door interrupted them. Pilot Hyunwoo Nam entered without waiting for permission. He was a tall man with angry eyes. Behind him came 3 other crew members, all young, all wearing the same expression of barely controlled rage. We heard about your research, Hyunwoo said. We know why they keep rejecting us. Then you understand it is not personal, Jiwon said carefully. She did not like Hyunwoo. He had been gathering followers over the past year, people who were angry and desperate. They are simply different from us. I understand that they would rather watch us die than let us live, Hyunwoo shot back. I understand that talking and being polite has gotten us nowhere. We have children starving on these ships, G1. Old people dying because we do not have medicine. And you want us to just accept that? What choice do we have? Sujin asked. Hyunwoo leaned forward, his hands on Jiwon's desk. We take what we need. There are dozens of undefended worlds out there, small colonies, mining operations. We have ships, we have weapons, even if we have never used them. We take a world by force and we survive. That would make us exactly what they fear, Jiwon said quietly. We would prove them right. I do not care about being right, Hyunwoo said. I care about being alive. He left with his followers. Sujin looked at Jiwon with worried eyes. He is gathering support. A lot of people think he makes sense. I know, Jiwon said. And I do not have an argument against him. Maybe we should take what we need. Maybe survival is more important than morality. She sat down heavily. I just wish there was another way. 3 months later, the answer came in the form of an old radio transmission. The communications officer found it buried in background noise, a signal that had traveled for years across space. It was simple, direct, and it came from Earth. Children of Terra, we have been watching. Come home. Jiwon stood in the command center with Commander Taemin and the rest of the senior staff, listening to the message repeat. Earth, the world they had left 40 years ago. The world that had been dying, drowning in its own waste and overpopulation. The world that had sent them away because there was no future there. It could be a trick, Captain Yuna said. The Galactic Assembly could have conquered Earth. This might be bait. Earth had no defenses against alien invasion, Minha added. If any species wanted to take it, they could have. But why would they? Do-Hyun asked. They do not want to live with us. Why would they want our world? Nobody had an answer. We should ignore it, Hyun-woo said. He had been invited to the meeting because his faction now represented almost 3,000 crew members. Earth abandoned us. We owe them nothing. Earth is 9 months away, Taemin said slowly. We have fuel for one more long-range jump. We can go to Earth. Or we can try one more random world and hope they accept us. He looked at each person in the room. I am open to suggestions. The debate went on for hours, but in the end, the choice was obvious. They had nowhere else to go. Every alien species had rejected them. They were running out of time, out of resources, out of hope. Set course for Earth, Taemin ordered finally. Whatever waits for us there. At least we will die near home. As the fleet turned toward Sol System, Ji-won stood at her viewport and watched the stars shift. She thought about everything she had learned, about a galaxy that feared change more than death, about humanity's gift for making family out of strangers. And she wondered what had happened to Earth in 40 years. Why would a dying world call its children home? She would find out soon enough. The journey home took 9 months. 9 months of ships falling apart piece by piece. 9 months of people dying from hunger and disease. 9 months of waiting to see what remained of the world they had left behind. Yoon-ji-oh spent those months in the archives, reviewing everything they knew about Earth before departure. She was the fleet's historian, responsible for preserving humanity's story. But now she was searching for clues about what they might find when they arrived. It does not make sense, she said to Commander Taemin one evening in the observation deck. They floated together in the reduced gravity, looking at the stars. Earth had 12 billion people when we left. The oceans were dying. The air was poison in most cities. Wars over water and food. We left because Earth was finished. Taemin nodded slowly. He looked older every day. The stress of command was killing him as surely as malnutrition. And now they want us back. But how? Yeonji pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's status from 40 years ago. Red warnings covered every continent. Even if they solved every problem, it would take centuries. You cannot heal a dying world in just 40 years. Maybe they have help, Taemin suggested. Maybe the Galactic Assembly came to Earth after we left. Maybe they saved it. Yoonji shook her head. The Assembly does not interfere with developing worlds. It is their primary law. They watch, but they do not help. She zoomed in on the data. And why would they help Earth anyway? They rejected us. If they came to Earth at all, it would be to prevent humans from spreading further. They had this conversation many times. Everyone on the ships did. The mystery of Earth's message consumed them during the long journey home. Some thought it was a trap. Others thought Earth had been conquered by aliens and humans were being called back as slaves. A few optimists dared to hope that Earth had somehow recovered, but even they could not explain how. Meanwhile, the ships continued to break down. Engineer Minha Kim performed miracles every day, keeping critical systems running with spare parts that should not work and repairs that should not hold. She barely slept. Her team worked around the clock, racing against entropy. The New Horizon is basically a floating wreck, she told Taemin during one of their daily meetings. I have shut down non-essential sections. No heat, no air, no power. We have compressed everyone into the habitable zones. But even those are failing. How long? Taemin asked. He always asked that question. We will reach Earth, Minha said. Barely. After that, these ships are done. We will not be flying anywhere else. Dr. Do-hyun had worse news. The medical bay was overwhelmed with dying patients. Malnutrition had weakened everyone's immune system. Simple infections became deadly. Children suffered the most. "We lost 43 people this month," he reported, his voice flat with exhaustion. "Most were elderly or very young. We are out of antibiotics, out of surgical supplies. I am doing amputations without anesthetic." He looked at Taemin with hollow eyes. "If we do not reach Earth soon, we will arrive with corpses instead of colonists." The worst problem was Hyunwoo Nam and his followers. They had grown bolder during the journey. They argued openly that returning to Earth was suicide. They wanted to hijack the fleet, turn around, and take an alien world by force. Security Chief Min-jae Kang reported increasing threats. "They are stockpiling weapons. Nothing major, just maintenance tools that can be used for fighting. They are training in the empty cargo bays. And they are recruiting." "How many?" Taemin asked. "Almost 5,000 now," Min-jae said grimly. "A quarter of the fleet. If they move against us, it will be civil war." Taemin called a general assembly, broadcasting to every ship in the fleet. 20,000 faces appeared on screens, most of them thin and tired. He spoke simply. "I know you are afraid. I know you are angry. I know some of you think we should turn back and fight for a world of our own." He paused, letting his words sink in. "But we do not have the fuel, we do not have the supplies, and we do not have the strength. If we try to conquer an alien world, we will fail, and we will prove that everything they fear about us is true." Hyunwoo's voice came over the channel. "So we just give up? We just die quietly?" "No," Taemin said. "We go home. We see what Earth has become, and if there is no place for us there, then we will decide together what to do next. But we will not become monsters to survive. That is not who we are." The vote was close, but Taemin won. The fleet continued toward Earth. In her small quarters, young Seo-yun Park tended her garden. She was Taemin's daughter, 26 years old, born on the journey out from Earth. She had never seen her grandfather's homeworld. To her, home was these dying ships, but she kept her garden alive. A small hydroponics box with 6 plants, real Earth plants, grown from seeds that had traveled 40 years through space. She talked to them every day, adjusted their light and water, picked off dead leaves with careful fingers. "You will see Earth soon," she whispered to the plants. "Your real home, where your ancestors grew wild and free." Her father found her there one evening. He looked at the tiny garden, so carefully maintained while everything else fell apart. "Why do you do this?" he asked gently. "Those plants will not feed anyone. The seeds could have been used in the main hydroponics." Seo-yun touched a small green leaf. "Because they are alive, because they survived, because as long as something is growing, there is hope." She looked up at her father. "We are like these plants. We have been traveling so long, searching for soil that will accept our roots. Maybe Earth will be that soil." Taemin sat beside his daughter. He thought about his own father, dead now for 30 years, who had insisted they join the colonial mission, who had believed humanity's future was in the stars. He wondered what his father would think of how that dream had turned out. "What if Earth rejects us too?" he asked quietly. "Then we will keep growing anyway," Seo-yun said, "because that is what humans do." 6 weeks before reaching Earth, the long-range sensors began picking up details of the Sol system. What they saw was impossible. The sun burned bright and healthy. Mercury remained barren and scorched, but Venus had orbital structures around it, massive platforms that caught sunlight. Mars glowed with a faint atmosphere, thin but present. The asteroid belt showed signs of mining operations, huge machines processing rock and metal, and Earth was green. The observation deck filled with people as the images came through. They stared at their homeworld, magnified on screens. The clouds were white, not brown. The oceans were blue, not gray. The lights of cities sparkled across the night side, but they were organized, planned, beautiful rather than the chaotic sprawl they remembered. "This is wrong," Yunji said. "This is not possible. Earth was dying." But the sensors did not lie. Earth was alive, more than alive. It was thriving. "What happened?" Minha asked, her voice filled with wonder. Nobody had an answer. They were still 3 days from orbit, 3 days from finally understanding what had become of humanity's homeworld. 3 days from learning if they were truly welcome to come home. The New Horizon limped into Earth orbit on the last of its fuel. Around it, the escort ships drifted into formation, their engines cold and silent. They had made it home. Barely. Commander Taman stood in the command center, staring at the planet below. It was beautiful. More beautiful than he remembered. More beautiful than seemed possible. The poisoned world he had left 4 decades ago had become a jewel of blue and green, wrapped in white clouds and ringed with orbital structures that gleamed in the sunlight. "Commander, we are being hailed," the communications officer said. "Source is Earth's surface. They are requesting permission to send a shuttle." "Grant it," Taman said. His heart was pounding. After 40 years. After 5 alien worlds that rejected them. After 9 months of creeping home on dying ships, finally they would get answers. The shuttle that rose from Earth's surface was elegant, sleek, advanced in ways that made Minha gasp when she saw it on the monitors. "That design," she whispered, "that is not 40 years ahead of us. That is centuries ahead." It docked with the New Horizon smoothly, automatically, with technology that far surpassed anything the fleet possessed. When the airlock opened, a man stepped through wearing a simple gray uniform with Earth's flag on the shoulder. He was young, perhaps 30, with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Commander Park," he said, bowing respectfully. "I am Ambassador Ji-hoon Kwon. On behalf of the people of Earth, welcome home." Taman found himself unable to speak. Tears ran down his face. Captain Yuna, standing beside him, was crying too. Even Hyunwoo, who had spent months arguing against this return, looked shaken. "What happened?" Taman finally managed to ask. "Earth was dying. How is this possible?" Ji-hoon's smile faded, replaced by something more serious. "You happened, Commander. When you left, you were our failure. Your return is our purpose." He looked at the gathered officers. "Come, let me show you what has become of your world." They took the shuttle down. 20 people from the fleet, including all the senior staff. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Ji-hoon told them the story. "After you left, things got worse," he said. "Much worse. Wars over resources, cities burning, oceans dying. We were facing extinction within a generation." He looked out the shuttle window at the clouds. But something changed. "We started receiving your messages." "Our messages?" Do-hyun asked. "Every time you attempted to make contact with an alien species, your broadcasts were picked up by Earth's monitoring stations. We heard you introduce yourselves, heard you explain humanity's mission, heard you offer friendship and cooperation." Ji-hoon's voice grew quiet. "And then we heard them reject you. Over and over. 5 different species, all saying the same thing. That humanity was too dangerous, too changeable, too willing to mix and absorb." Yuna laughed bitterly. "They hated us for being kind." "Yes," Ji-hoon said. "And when Earth learned this, when billions of people watched their children being rejected by the galaxy, something broke. Or perhaps something healed. We asked ourselves a question. If we cannot live with alien species, can we even live with ourselves?" The shuttle broke through the clouds. Below them, a city spread out in all directions. But it was not the choking, sprawling, polluted cities they remembered. This was a garden. Buildings rose like trees covered in green. Rivers ran clean and clear through the streets. The air was so transparent they could see for hundreds of miles. "Is this Seoul?" Taemin asked, recognizing the geography. "Yes," Ji-hoon said, "though it is very different from when you left. Every city on Earth has been transformed. We call it the Great Reconstruction." They landed on a platform surrounded by flowers. Real flowers, thousands of them, filling the air with scent. A crowd waited to greet them, humans of every color and age, all wearing simple clothes, all smiling. As they stepped off the shuttle, the crowd began to clap, not cheering, just gentle, steady applause, welcoming them home. Ji-hoon led them through the city. With every step, Taemin felt more disoriented. This could not be Earth. Earth had been concrete and steel, smoke and noise, millions of desperate people fighting over scraps. This place was peaceful, clean, beautiful. "How?" Minha kept asking. "How did you do this?" They entered a building that Ji-hoon called the Hall of Memory. Inside, walls were covered with images and videos, the story of Earth's transformation. "The colony ships left in 2805, Ji-hoon explained. For 5 years after that, Earth continued to collapse. Then in 2810, we received your first rejection. The Drathian species had refused to let you settle on their world. We watched the broadcast. We heard them call humanity a contamination." He brought up a video on a large screen. It showed protests across Earth, millions of people marching. But they were not angry. They were grieving. "Something changed that day," Ji-hoon said. "People realized that we had sent our best and bravest into space, only to have them rejected for being too human, too cooperative, too willing to change and adapt. And we asked, what if those traits are not weaknesses? What if they are our greatest strength?" The images changed, showing people working together, tearing down old factories, cleaning rivers, planting forests, building new power systems. "We unified," Ji-hoon said simply. "For the first time in human history, we truly unified. Not under a government or religion or ideology. We unified under a single purpose, to build a world worthy of your return." "But the technology," Do-hyun said, "the fusion power, the atmospheric restoration, the orbital structures, this is centuries beyond what we had." "Cooperation," Ji-hoon answered. "When humanity stopped fighting itself, when we shared all our knowledge freely, when every scientist and engineer worked together instead of competing, progress accelerated beyond our wildest dreams. We solved fusion power in 6 years. We developed atmospheric scrubbers in 4. We built the orbital solar collectors in 10. He showed them more images. Earth's population had stabilized at 12 billion, but now those people lived in harmony with the planet. Food was abundant, grown in massive vertical farms. Energy was unlimited from fusion and solar. Water was clean, recycled perfectly. There was no poverty, no hunger, no war. "But why?" Yuna asked. "Why did our rejection cause this? We were just one failed colony mission." Ji-hoon turned to her with intense eyes. "Because you were us. You were humanity's hope, and the galaxy spat on you for being too kind. That rejection was a mirror. It showed us what we were doing to ourselves. We were rejecting our own nature, our own humanity, in our fight for survival." He paused. "So we stopped fighting. We started being human again. And everything changed." They toured the city for hours. Taemin saw hospitals where medicine had advanced to the point where most diseases were curable. Minha saw engineering marvels that made her weep. Do-hyun visited schools where children learned from teachers of every culture, every background, all working together. Seo-yoon found a garden, a massive park in the city center where plants from every continent grew together, tended by volunteers. She knelt and touched the soil, real earth soil, rich and dark and alive. That evening, they gathered in a meeting room overlooking the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky gold and purple. Jehoon stood before them, his expression serious. "You have seen what Earth has become," he said. "Now I must ask what you will do. You have 20,000 people on those ships. Some may wish to stay. Others may wish to leave again. We will support whatever you choose." Taemin looked at his officers, at Yuna, who had fought so hard to keep everyone alive, at Do-hyun, who had held the dying in his arms, at Minha, who had worked miracles with failing machines, at his daughter, Seo-yun, who had never known Earth until today. "What about the galaxy?" he asked. "What about the species that rejected us?" Jihoon smiled. "We have a plan for them. But first, we need to know if you are home to stay or if you still dream of the stars." Outside the window, the lights of the city began to glow in the darkness. Earth shined bright and beautiful, alive in ways that seemed impossible. A world that had nearly died, transformed into paradise, all because it had learned to be truly human again. 6 months passed. 6 months of recovery, of healing, of learning to live on a planet again after 40 years in space. The 20,000 colonists from the fleet spread across Earth, integrating into a civilization that had transformed itself while they wandered among the stars. Many chose to stay permanently. Taemin was one of them. At 73, he was too tired to journey into space again. He retired to a small house near the ocean, where he spent his days teaching young cadets at the Space Service Academy. They would ask him about the rejection, about the years of wandering, and he would tell them honestly. It hurt. Every time an alien species said no, it felt like dying a little. But humanity survived anyway, because that was what humans did. Dr. Do-hyun joined Earth's Medical Research Institute. With access to 40 years of advanced technology, he worked on cures for the diseases that had killed so many of his patients on the ships. He would save others, even if he could not save those he had lost. Minha became chief engineer for Earth's orbital construction projects. She stood in space again, but this time in a comfortable station with unlimited power and resources, building ships that would never break down, never fail. Ships that would carry humans safely through the stars. Seo-yun took her small garden and planted it in Earth's soil. She became a botanist, studying how plants adapted and grew in different environments. Her work would help future colonists grow food on distant worlds, if any worlds ever accepted them. But not everyone stayed. Captain Yuna Choi stood in the briefing room of Earth's Diplomatic Corps headquarters, looking at the people assembled before her. 50 humans, and 50 others. The others were aliens. They stood nervously, uncertain, afraid. A Velthron couple who had been cast out for mating outside their genetic caste. A Krython father holding his daughter. A child born with emotions her species considered defective. A Drathian scholar who questioned her people's traditions. A Telvan engineer who wanted to learn from other species. Dozens more, all rejected by their own worlds for being different, for being wrong, for wanting to change. They had come to Earth, and Earth had welcomed them. "I know you are afraid," Yuna said, speaking slowly so the translators could keep up. "You have left everything behind. Your worlds, your families, your cultures. You are here because nowhere else would take you." The aliens looked at each other. Some had tears in their eyes if their species could cry. Others trembled. They expected rejection. They always expected rejection. 6 months ago, Earth sent a message to the Galactic Assembly, Yuna continued. We told them what we had learned. That the galaxy fears change more than death. That they would rather stay pure and alone than risk becoming something new. She walked among the gathered aliens, meeting their eyes. We told them that Earth would be different. We said, "Send us your outcasts. Send us your different ones. Send us those who do not fit. We will give them what you could not. A home. A Veltron female raised her hand tentatively. But why? Why would you accept us when your own kind was rejected? Yuna smiled. Because we know what rejection feels like, and we decided that no one should feel that pain if we can prevent it. She gestured to the humans in the room. This crew is half human, half not. Together we will travel to the edges of the galaxy, not to conquer, not to colonize, but to offer hope. She walked to the front of the room where a hologram appeared, showing a beautiful ship in orbit. It was sleek and advanced, built with Earth's new technology. On its side was painted a name, Unity's Promise. This will be our home, Yuna said. The first embassy ship. We will visit worlds where people are suffering because they are different. We will tell them about Earth, about a planet where being different is not wrong. It is just being yourself. She looked at each person in the room. Some will come with us. Some will stay. But we will let everyone know. You are not alone anymore. Ambassador Ji-hoon entered the room. He had been working on this project for months, coordinating with the Galactic Assembly, navigating the complicated politics of dozens of alien species. Most of them were angry about Earth's offer. They saw it as interference, as an attempt to corrupt their cultures. The Assembly has agreed to let us operate, he told the group. Reluctantly. They cannot stop us from accepting refugees, but they have made it clear we are not welcome in their space. He smiled slightly. We are going anyway. A young Krython girl tugged on Yuna's uniform. She was small, maybe 8 years old in human terms. Her people had abandoned her because she felt too much emotion, something they considered a genetic flaw. Will I be safe? The girl asked in halting English. She had been learning the language for 3 months. Yuna knelt down to the girl's level. Yes, on Earth and on our ship, you will be safe. You can feel as much as you want. You can cry and laugh and be angry and be happy. And no one will tell you that you are wrong. The girl started crying, not from sadness, but from relief. Yuna held her while the child sobbed, releasing years of pain and fear. Over the next weeks, more aliens arrived. They came quietly, secretly, in small ships that slipped past their homeworld's defenses. By the time the Unity's Promise launched, 300 aliens had made their way to Earth. 300 beings who did not fit in the galaxy's rigid societies. Do-hyun worked overtime to understand their medical needs. Each species was different. Each required different food, different environments, different care. But he learned. Earth's doctors learned. And slowly they built a medical database that would help other refugees who came after. Sujin taught them to grow Earth crops, while learning about their agriculture in return. The exchange of knowledge was exactly what humanity had always wanted, what the galaxy had always feared. But now it was happening anyway, and the results were beautiful. New hybrid growing techniques, new ways to feed people, new possibilities. On the day the Unity's Promise launched, Taemin came to watch. He stood on the observation platform with thousands of others, human and alien, all looking up at the sky. The ship rose smoothly, its fusion engines burning clean and bright. It would carry Yuna and her crew to the frontier, to the edges of the galaxy where people suffered in silence. Seo-yun stood beside her father. "Do you wish you were going?" she asked. Taemin shook his head. "I am too old for more journeys, but I am glad someone is going. We spent 40 years being rejected. Now we get to spend forever accepting others." As the ship disappeared into the stars, its final transmission played across Earth. Yuna's voice, clear and strong. "To all beings who hear this message, we are the crew of the Unity's Promise, representing the planet Earth. For 40 years, we searched for a home among the stars. We were rejected by every world we found. They said we were dangerous because we change things, because we make friends too easily. Because we do not respect purity and separation. She paused. In the background of the transmission, the diverse crew could be seen working together, human and alien side by side. They were right. We do change things. We cannot help it. It is our nature to adapt, to learn, to grow, to welcome others into our lives. For centuries, we thought this was weakness. The galaxy confirmed our fears by rejecting us, but we learned something during those years of rejection. The camera focused on Yuna's face. She was smiling. Our nature is not weakness. It is strength. The ability to change means the ability to survive. The willingness to accept others means we are never truly alone. So to every being who has been cast out, who does not fit, who dreams of something more than the life your world allows, we say, you are welcome here. Earth offers what the galaxy would not give us, a place where difference is celebrated, not feared, where change is growth, not death, where family is not defined by genetics but by choice. She gestured to her crew, human and alien together. We are heading to the frontier. We cannot offer you a perfect world. We cannot promise an easy life. But we can promise you will never again be told you are wrong for being yourself. To all who hear this message and feel a spark of hope, remember, you are not alone. Earth is waiting, and we say what the galaxy would not say to us. Yuna's final words echoed across space, transmitted to every corner of the known galaxy. Welcome home. The transmission ended. On Earth, people cheered. In orbit, construction continued on 2 more embassy ships. In the cities, aliens walked beside humans, learning to trust again, learning to hope again. And far away, on distant worlds, beings who had always felt wrong, always felt different, heard the message. They looked up at their skies and wondered. Some were too afraid to leave. Some were too controlled to try. But others began to plan, to dream, to imagine a life where they could be themselves. One by one they would come, not as invaders, not as conquerors, but as refugees seeking sanctuary. And Earth, the planet that had nearly died from its own failures, would welcome them all. Because humanity had learned its greatest lesson. The willingness to accept others, to change and be changed by them, was not weakness. It was the strength that would save not just humanity, but anyone brave enough to reach for it. The galaxy had rejected humanity for being too kind, and humanity's response was to become kinder still, to offer to the universe what it had always longed for but never dared to ask, a place where everyone belonged. In his retirement, Taman often thought about the irony. Humanity had gone to the stars seeking a home. They had been rejected everywhere they went. And in the end, they realized the truth. Home was not a place you found. It was a place you built, and you built it by opening your door to everyone who knocked. Earth had become that home, not just for humans, but for anyone who needed it. And in doing so, humanity had finally found its purpose among the stars. Not as explorers or conquerors or colonists, but as friends, as family, as a species that looked at the universe's outcasts and said the most powerful words in any language. You belong here.